radio show on the KYBN, WNIA, and HHNS networks with millions of listeners worldwide. The only reason that happened is because you continue to support this show. Now, once again, the Chamber is breaking new ground and helping our community in the process. We've transitioned our studio into a high school classroom where students can learn the skills of audio and video production and earn real high school credit for it at no expense to the parents. Everything you see and everything you hear is being done by one of our students. From the video clips in our monitors to the backgrounds, the lighting, the audio clips, even the microphone being turned on is done by one of our students. Heck, even some of the stories are brought to us by some of our students. Let me show you something. This is Kenny. He's growing up to be a fine audio engineer. Everything you hear on our show is being run through Kenny right now. He's 17 years old. He's from Pasco County, Florida. And this is BJ. And even though he's special, he runs every piece of video you're seeing right now. And he does an excellent job. Currently, we're able to provide this program to parents at no cost because I'm funding it out of my own pocket. But we won't be able to continue this without help and support from our viewers, friends, and fans. There are two ways that you can support the Chamber and our efforts. During our station break, the Chamber's video feed goes to commercials by our sponsors. If you run a business, you can take out one of these commercial ads for as little as $250. Not only would you be supporting our efforts, but you would get excellent advertising and marketing for your company. If you don't own a company, but you'd like to make a donation to our efforts, it's as simple as using your Cash App. Simply Cash App your donation in any amount to $Andre Roxx, all one word, and make sure that you put in the memo line, donation to the Chamber Radio Show. Your donations will go towards equipment, instructions, and equipment maintenance to help these high school students learn a valuable skill that they can use to make a career in the future. Finally, I want to say thank you for supporting the Chamber over the last 4 years, and I look forward to many more with you. And again, thank you for helping us turn the Chamber into more than a radio show, but a place for our youth to learn valuable skills that they can use to turn into a career in their future. Until next time, y'all, peace and blessings. I am out.
Yes, y'all. That is George Clinton, Atomic Dog. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Chamber. I'm your host, Andre Roxx, Mr. Independent. And of course, you are tuned in to either KYBN Radio, the World Advantage Network, Real People Talk Radio, WNIA, or Hip Hop News Source Radio, that's HHNSradio.com. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. As I said before, we are talking about the aggressions, not just the microaggressions, but the macroaggressions and the hostilities and the view of Africans in America. And when I say Africans in America, I mean all of those of African descent in America. I refuse to call myself an American until America decides that they're going to give me the rights and privileges of an American. But we're talking about the microaggressions that Africans deal with here in the United States of America, and the perceived criminality of the African in America. Once again, phone lines are open. The number is 706-452-ROXX. That's 706-452-7699. Phone lines are open. Please call in anytime. You get directly on air with your man, Andre Roxx. No wait time, nothing. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, so we're looking at this picture of this effigy, this woman who claims, while insulting your intelligence, that this is a Halloween decoration that she left up, and that this has nothing to do with race. Again, it's a brown man hanging from a tree right next to a Confederate flag in her front yard. And she claims this has nothing to do with race. It's a Halloween decoration that she left up till May. And then she said it's just a tribute to her favorite movie. But then when interviewed by KLRT, that's Little Rock's television station, she couldn't even remember what movie it is. It's her favorite movie. So she says. So she's in this subdivision in Little Rock. And I want you to think about what it's like for a black person to have to drive down the street every day and see this. This is a threat on our lives. Make no mistake about it. Every time a black person drives down that street, they are literally having their lives threatened. I know that we talk about freedom of speech and that she should have the right to put this up because it's freedom of speech. But it has long been debated that freedom of speech has limitations. For example, I can't call you up on the phone and threaten you. I can't say, hey, I'll kill you tomorrow. They're going to arrest me for terroristic threats, and I'll go to jail. So why is it okay for this woman to threaten her neighbors? We all know what a lynching is. Don't insult our intelligence by acting like we don't know what a lynching is. And she's saying she's okay with that. Now here's the psychology behind it. Imagine if you were black in America. See, a lot of people don't like to put themselves in other people's positions. But imagine if you were black in America. This is to all my white listeners out there. And America made every justification to why it's okay for you, for a white American, to threaten your life every day. Would you feel safe in that country? Would you feel safe in a country that said, hey, it's okay. It is okay for your neighbor to tell you they want to kill you every day? It's the same mentality. I want to expand this a little bit, where they protect the Ku Klux Klan and the Aryan Nation, and they refuse to label them terrorist organizations, though they commit acts of terrorism. They find every reason to excuse behavior that is a direct threat on your life. How would you feel if you were black living in America under that type of rule? Now, let's reverse that, because a lot of people say, well, it's just protecting their freedom of speech. Okay. So why is it that under the Trump administration, investigations into organizations like the Aryan Nation, like the Ku Klux Klan, have been halted, defunded, yet investigations into organizations like Black Lives Matter have been ramped up? Funding has been doubled. America is sending a clear signal to the blacks in the United States of America that they want us to remain second-class citizens. Now think about how you would feel about living in a country like that. Would you feel safe? If you had to drive past this woman's house every day, would you feel safe? Let me ask you another question, because it seems like we've got different rules for different groups of people. What if I put in my front yard? And I want to be clear here, I would never do this. I think this would be a horrendous thing to do. But what if I put in my front yard a statue of a crematorium with Jews being shoveled in and a swastika on the side and smoke coming out the top? How long do you think it would be before the city I live in, the state that I live in, the county I live in, found some reason to force me to take that down. I give it about 5 hours. You know it and I know it. There is no way they would allow me to leave something like that up. It's the same mentality that we deal with when we're talking about these Confederate statues. Yes, I'm bringing that up. That's not an old issue to me because we're still fighting it, especially down here in the South. When we talk about these Confederate statues and people want to continue to argue, we don't want to take them down because they're a part of history. There's a lot that's a part of history that we don't memorialize with a statue. What if we constructed a statue of Adolf Hitler? Oh, you guys would scream to take it down in a heartbeat. But they say it's a part of American history. No, it's not. Robert E. Lee was the enemy of America. If you don't remember your history books, the South seceded. They declared themselves their own nation. They were enemy combatants. We fought a war against the South. Now, what other group of people do we fight a war against and then put memorials up for them? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear on the Confederate statues that you guys are claiming are a part of history. Every statue that went up did not go up in Civil War times or directly after the Civil War. I know they like to make you think that. Most of the Confederate statues in this country went up during the Civil Rights Movement as a sign to blacks to keep your behinds in line. They began erecting those statues in popular black greeting and meeting grounds to intimidate. They also began naming schools and parks after those same men during that time. It's not a part of our history. Well, it is a part of our history. But we don't honor everybody that's a part of our history. Some people we look at with disgust. And Robert E. Lee is one of those men that we should look at with absolute disgust. We shouldn't memorialize him and praise him. The history doesn't change just because the statue comes down. But what people really want to leave those statues up for is the same reason that this woman put this up. They want to continue to intimidate the Africans in America. They want to continue to intimidate the black population. And they want to hide behind the First Amendment. You would not let me hide behind the First Amendment if I erected a statue of Adolf Hitler. You wouldn't. Because every Jew driving past that statue would be offended by it. And there would be petitions and they would tear that damn thing down. Because Adolf Hitler represented a government that wanted to oppress the Jewish people. So why do we keep statues of Robert E. Lee up and Confederate soldiers? They represented a government that wanted to oppress black people. Oh, because the rules aren't the same for us. That's the mentality of America. This is the America that I wake up and have to face every day. Just to clear some things up. In case anybody was wondering why I'm an angry black man. It's time for us to go to our musical break. I'm going to take you guys to a little bit of Ice Cube if you're tuned in on our radio stream. If you're tuned in on our video stream, I'm going to take you to a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back here on The Chamber. Stay tuned.
Do you know what smoking and cigarettes do to the inside of your body?
It hurts your body. Smoke and cigarettes can hurt your lungs.
It hurts your throat.
It hurts lots of other parts too.
It makes you more likely to get heart disease and lung disease.
It increases your risk for a heart attack or stroke.
And on the outside, it really just stinks.
Your clothes smell, your breath is gross, and your teeth get yellow. Hello, do you hear what we're saying? Do you hear what we're saying?
Do you hear what we're saying?
Smoking isn't cool.
It's not cool at all.
And it can kill you. Hey, you won't start smoking for yourself. Just do it for me. And me. And me. And me.
And me.
And us. So we have our nice guac smasher here.
That's the guac smasher?
The guac smasher. I always joked is, man, working at Chipotle definitely gave me some muscles. I mean, I worked at a sandwich shop before and the guacamole came in a bag in a freezer and who knows what was in it.
You know what's in all of this food.
Yes. I'm gonna add onions and cilantro, jalapenos, get all those ingredients in there.
It is fresh.
Fresh every day.
You've had quite the career.
Yeah, I've had some pretty prestigious jobs over the years. News producer, executive transport manager, and a beverage distribution supervisor. Now I'm a director at a security software firm.
Wow, you've been at it a long time.
The thing is, I like working. What if my retirement plan is I don't want to retire?
Then let's not create a retirement plan. Let's create a plan for what's next.
I like that.
Get a plan that's right for you. TD Ameritrade.
Corner pocket.
Greetings and salutations.
Whoa! It's the new guy!
You, sir, are correct. I am Epic Crunch Nacho, known worldwide for my powerful crunch. Crunch!
What the what? He just crunched the 8-ball!
Welcome to the team, Epic Crunch.
Thank you very much.
Ow! You crunched my hand!
Oh no! I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. It was a total accident. I'm sorry, it'll never happen again.
Psych!
Ha ha! You got me. New Goldfish Epic Crunch! Crunch that packs a punch!
Flavors of orange and vanilla and Coke living together harmoniously, just like the fine people of this town.
Orange!
Vanilla.
Orange!
Vanilla.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Andre Roxx, host of The Chamber on KYBN, WNIA, and HHNS Radio. Now, when you see The Chamber's live video broadcast, this is what you see. But this is what you don't see. You see, when I started The Chamber 4 years ago, the only reason I got on air is because some station manager in Philadelphia Yes, y'all. That is Ice Cube. Today was a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Chamber. I'm your host, Andre Roxx, Mr. Independent. And of course, you are tuned in to either KYBN Radio, the World Advantage Network, Real People Talk Radio, WNIA, or Hip Hop News Source Radio. That's HHNSradio.com. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are open. Give us a call, 706-452-ROXX. You get directly on air with your man, Andre Roxx. If you're tuned in on our video stream, if you're tuned in on our radio stream, unfortunately, you're listening to a rebroadcast. So if you're watching the video of this show, that means I'm here live with you. If you're watching the radio stream of this show, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, you're catching the rebroadcast. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the number is down on the bottom of your screen if you're tuned in on the radio show. Our Skype line is not open right now. Just some technical issues, so don't try and call in on the Skype line. Anyway, we're talking about the, I'm just going to call it what it is. The world that blacks in America have to face down every day. Because I don't think people really understand what it's like to just walk around and be black. I mean, yes, we have to deal with the aggressions of people hanging effigies of us. Now, you got to understand something. Some people have to walk past that with their kids. Now, you got a 5-year-old kid, and they're not stupid. They know what that means. Now you got to explain why their skin color makes them a target at 5 years old. See, I'm going to tell you honestly, white people, you don't have to do that. You don't have to have that conversation with your 5-year-old as to why their skin color makes them a target. I do. My 8-year-old, I've had to have that conversation with him many times. Why some people want to hang you from a tree just because of the color of your skin. Something that you have zero control over. But there are milder microaggressions that we have to deal with. Like walking down the street as a black man. Do this experiment. Do this experiment one day. If you're a black man, walk next to somebody on the street. Let's say in their 50s on up. Walk next to a woman who's alone and watch her clutch her purse. Now, I've done this experiment. I've walked past a woman and watched her either switch hands with her purse or clutch it tighter. And then I've watched that same woman walk past a white man, roughly my same build, and feel just as comfortable walking past them with the. Now, first of all, I wanna ask, and this is just, I know it's a little off topic, but little old white women, please, somebody call in and let me know about this. This is just a curiosity I've had for a while. I have no intention of stealing your purse. I don't want 2 peppermints and your social security check. But if I did intend to steal your purse, what do you think clutching your purse is doing, or switching hands? What do you think that's really doing as a deterrent? If I intended to steal your purse, I am 200 plus pounds. I'm going to take your purse. I'm just curious as to what made you all think that was some sort of security. As a matter of fact, you probably put yourself in more danger, because if I did intend to steal it, now I'm going to hit you to take it. Again, I want to be clear. I have no intention of stealing anyone's purse. But I'm just always curious as to why this is your reaction to me. But the bigger question is, why is that your reaction to me? Why do I scare you? We will talk about the psychology of why blacks scare many, not just whites, I'm going to be honest, many even blacks and Asians and everyone else. Because the psychology is across the board in the United States of America. It's not just with blacks. So we are going to talk about that. But I just want everybody to take a minute and put yourself in our shoes. Imagine if you had to deal with this day in and day out. Non-stop, 365 days a year. Every store you walk in, you're followed. The assumption that you're stealing. Every job interview you go on, you have to contend with the idea that you're a thug. The first thing you have to do when you walk into that job interview is prove to that person that you're not a thug, because the automatic assumption is that you are. Or when you go to the bank to get a loan. Imagine dealing with that your entire life. That does psychological damage. It really does. I've heard it being referred to as post-traumatic slave disorder. But yes, a lot of blacks in America are suffering from the psychological damage of the constant microaggression. It's not, I want to be clear here, it's not the big issues. You know, every once in a while, we get confronted by a straight up racist calling us all kinds of words, and yeah, that happens every once in a while. The micro racism that we deal with day in and day out is what we really get upset about. That's what really wears down on our psyche. I want to talk about another story that came up in my feed today. And I just want to be very brief about it. You know what? I'm going to do what we call in the radio world a cliffhanger. I want to talk about how our children are treated by the American society. So the next segment of our show is entitled, "When Having Black Skin is a Crime, Your Existence is Your Guilt." I want to talk about how our children are assumed to be guilty just for having black skin. We'll talk about that when we come back from our break, because I see that we are well over our time on our break here. This is our top of the hour musical break, so this is our long break. I'm going to start you guys off. Let's see. I'm going to start you guys off with a little bit of Nas and Lauryn Hill, "When I Rule the World." And then, I don't know. I'll figure it out by the time we get to our second song. Either way, we'll be right back here on The Chamber, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned.
You thought it would be funny to let a rapper talk about politics and world events. And somehow we went from a small station with 12,000 listeners in Philadelphia to an internationally syndicated radio show on the KYBN, WNIA, and HHNS networks with millions of listeners worldwide. The only reason that happened is because you continue to support this show. Now, once again, the Chamber is breaking new ground and helping our community in the process. We've transitioned our studio into a high school classroom where students can learn the skills of audio and video production and earn real high school credit for it at no expense to the parents. Everything you see and everything you hear is being done by one of our students. From the video clips in our monitors, to the backgrounds, the lighting, the audio clips, even the microphone being turned on is done by one of our students. Heck, even some of the stories are brought to us by some of our students. Let me show you something. This is Kenny. He's growing up to be a fine audio engineer. Everything you hear on our show is being run through Kenny right now. He's 17 years old. He's from Pasco County, Florida. And this is BJ. And even though he's special, he runs every piece of video you're seeing right now. And he does an excellent job. Currently, we're able to provide this program to parents at no cost because I'm funding it out of my own pocket. But we won't be able to continue this without help and support from our viewers, friends, and fans. There are two ways that you can support the Chamber and our efforts. During our station break, the Chamber's video feed goes to commercials by our sponsors. If you run a business, you can take out one of these commercial ads for as little as $250. Not only would you be supporting our efforts, but you would get excellent advertising and marketing for your company. If you don't own a company but you'd like to make a donation to our efforts, it's as simple as using your Cash App. Simply Cash App your donation in any amount to $ Andre Roxx, all one word, and make sure that you put in the memo line, donation to the Chamber Radio Show. Your donations will go towards equipment, instructions, and equipment maintenance to help these high school students learn a valuable skill that they can use to make a career in the future. Finally, I want to say thank you for supporting the Chamber over the last 4 years, and I look forward to many more with you. And again, thank you for helping us turn the Chamber into more than a radio show, but a place for our youth to learn valuable skills that they can use to turn into a career in their future. Until next time, y'all, peace and blessings. I am out.
Do you know what smoking and cigarettes do to the inside of your body?
It hurts your body. Smoke and cigarettes can hurt your lungs. It hurts your throat. It hurts lots of other parts too.
It makes you more likely to get heart disease and lung disease.
It increases your risk for a heart attack or stroke.
And on the outside, it really just stinks.
Your clothes smell, your breath is gross, and your teeth get yellow. Hello, do you hear what we're saying? Do you hear what we're saying?
Do you hear what we're saying?
Smoking isn't cool. It's not cool at all.
And it can kill you. Hey, you won't start smoking for yourself. Just do it for me. And me. And me. And me.
And me.
And us.
So we have our nice guac smasher here.
That's the guac smasher?
The guac smasher. I always joked as, man, working at Chipotle definitely gave me some muscles. I mean, I worked at a sandwich shop before and the guacamole came in a bag in a freezer and who knows what was in it.
You know what's in all of this food.
Yes. I'm gonna add onions and cilantro, jalapenos, get all those ingredients in there.
It is fresh.
Fresh every day.
You've had quite the career.
Yeah, I've had some pretty prestigious jobs over the years. News producer, executive transport manager, and a beverage distribution supervisor. Now I'm a director at a security software firm.
Wow, you've been at it a long time.
The thing is, I like working. What if my retirement plan is I don't want to retire?
Then let's not create a retirement plan. Let's create a plan for what's next.
I like that.
Get a plan that's right for you. TD Ameritrade.
Corner pocket. Greetings and salutations.
Whoa! It's the new guy!
You, sir, are correct. I am Epic Crunch Nacho, known worldwide for my powerful crunch. Crunch!
What the what? He just crunched the 8-ball!
Welcome to the team, Epic Crunch.
Thank you very much.
Ow! You crunched my hand!
Oh no! I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. It was a total accident. I'm sorry, it'll never happen again.
Psych!
Haha, you got me. New Goldfish Epic Crunch. Crunch that packs a punch.
Flavors of orange and vanilla and Coke living together harmoniously, just like the fine people of this town.
Orange! Vanilla. Orange. Vanilla.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Andre Roxx, host of The Chamber on KYBN, WNIA, and HHNS Radio. Now, when you see The Chamber's live video broadcast, this is what you see. But this is what you don't see. You see, when I started The Chamber 4 years ago, the only reason I got on air is because some station manager in Philadelphia thought it would be Yes, y'all. That is DMX. X gonna give it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Chamber. I'm your host, Andre Roxx, Mr. Independent. And of course, you are tuned in to
to either KYBN Radio, the World Advantage Network, Real People Talk Radio, WNIA, or Hip Hop News Source Radio. That's hhnsradio.com. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Once again, phone lines are open. If you're tuned in on our video stream, the number is 706-452-ROXX. That's 706-452-7699. We want to hear from you, hear what you got to say about all of this. But we're talking about the fact that young blacks, not even young blacks, just blacks in America are criminalized. But the next thing I want to talk about is how our youth are treated. This segment of the show was sparked, as I said, when I was doing my research for today's show. And I came across an article. Before I start talking about the article, I want you to think about what you've been taught about how police deal with children. Think about, your episodes of Law and Order SVU or, things like that. When they raid the house, what do? They go and grab the kids and, wrap them in a blanket and take them out of harm's way and all of that good stuff. And that's the truth. That's what many police officers do when it comes to white children. But when it comes to black children, the assumption of childhood innocence isn't there anymore. The children of our race are presumed to be guilty, presumed to have some sort of culpability. Remember last year, or a couple years back, Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, convened a study on how the Chicago police dealt with African Americans. And he found out that basically they just deal with them horribly. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that Chicago police decided that it was okay during a raid to handcuff and accuse an 8-year-old black boy, claiming that they had no idea that he was a child. He's 8. I'm looking at his picture right now. I won't put his picture up on our video stream because I just excuse me. I won't I know a lot of people have already put his picture out. I don't do that to children. But he's 8 years old and he doesn't look like an old kid. He looks like a typical 8-year-old child. But the defense that the Chicago Police Department and SWAT are giving for a home invasion that happened on March 15th, in which they ran in and grabbed this 8-year-old child, threw him in handcuffs, put him in the back of a police car, was that they had no idea he was 8 years old. Again, I want you to challenge your cognitive skills here. I want you to ask yourselves a very simple question. If you saw an 8-year-old child, would you recognize them as a child? I guarantee that the vast majority of the people watching my show right now are saying, yeah, I can tell the difference between a child and an adult. But it doesn't matter to these people. It doesn't matter to the Chicago Police Department because a black child is a criminal. The incident happened just before 6 a.m. on March 15th, Friday, when the Wilson family started their day off. They were startled by a flash grenade. and a police bullhorn commanding them to go outside of their Southside Chicago home. Single file with their hands up. The Wilsons said they did their best to comply with the orders of the police who had come to raid their home because of a tip, an anonymous tip, claiming that the Wilsons had a gun in the house. I want to start with this. The police get an anonymous tip that the Wilsons have a gun in their home. Last I checked, the Second Amendment to the Constitution says that people are allowed to have guns. Isn't that what you right-wingers say? So, right here, where's the NRA? Saying, hey, wait a minute, you raided their home because they supposedly had a gun? Oh, it seems like what you're doing is just telling the black population, hey, white people can have guns. White people can have guns, but you can't. It doesn't seem like you're too keen on blacks having guns to the fact that you would send a SWAT team in because they said they had a gun. You see, this is the example right here of the same rules not applying to blacks as they do to whites. You all want to say that we live in a post-racial society. The NRA would be up in arms right now if a white family's home was raided simply because they said that they had a gun in the house. But just like with Philando Castile, who was carrying his firearm legally and was murdered because of it, it's considered dangerous for blacks to have guns. Regardless of whether they're carrying them legally or not. You notice the story doesn't talk about they claim that they had an illegal gun in their house, or they claim that these people were not allowed to own a firearm. It just says that they had a gun in their house. They said they did their best to comply. Still, police found that it was okay to handcuff young Dominique Wilson, an 8-year-old boy. I'm sorry, Royal Wilson. Dominique Wilson was the mother. Held them on the streets where it was cold, windy, drizzling. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the police raid turned up nothing. I want to be clear because when I read this article, one of the things that I really noticed was it did not say that they had a warrant to search the house. You know why? Because no judge would issue a warrant for somebody exercising their Second Amendment rights. I dug up some interesting facts about the perception of black youth in America. And these facts were studies conducted not only by, black organizations, as you would think, but organizations like the New England Journal of Medicine, the American Psychological Association, reputable, non-biased sources interested in the psychology and health of the human being. I want to talk about some of these studies and why our black youth are in so much danger when we come back from our break. But right now we do have to get a word from our sponsors and play some music. So if you're tuned in on our radio stream, we're going to go to a classic, Stevie Wonder, Sir Duke. If you're tuned in on our video stream, we're going to go to a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back here on The Chamber. Stay tuned.
to let a rapper talk about politics and world events. And somehow we went from a small station with 12,000 listeners in Philadelphia to an internationally syndicated radio show on the KYBN, WNIA, and HHNS networks with millions of listeners worldwide. The only reason that happened is because you continue to support this show. Now, once again, the Chamber is breaking new ground and helping our community in the process. We've transitioned our studio into a high school classroom where students can learn the skills of audio and video production and earn real high school credit for it at no expense to the parents. Everything you see and everything you hear is being done by one of our students. From the video clips in our monitors, to the backgrounds, the lighting. The Chamber is breaking new ground and helping our community in the process. We've transitioned our studio into a high school classroom where students can learn the skills of audio and video production and earn real high school credit for it. He's growing up to be a fine audio engineer. Everything you hear on our show is being run through Kenny right now. He's 17 years old. He's from Pasco County, Florida. And this is BJ, and even though he's special, he runs every piece of video you're seeing right now, and he does an excellent job. Currently, we're able to provide this program to parents at no cost because I'm funding it out of my own pocket. But we won't be able to continue this without help and support from our viewers, friends, and fans. There are two ways that you can support the Chamber and our efforts. During our station break, the Chamber's video feed goes to commercials by our sponsors. If you run a business, you can take out one of these commercial ads for as little as $250. Not only would you be supporting our efforts, but you would get excellent advertising and marketing. He's 17 years old. He's from Pasco County, Florida. If you don't own a company, but you'd like to make a donation to our efforts, it's as simple as using your Cash App. You can take out, simply Cash App your donation in any amount to $ Andre Roxx, all one word, and make sure that you put in the memo line, donation to the Chamber Radio Show. Your donations will go towards equipment, instructions, and equipment maintenance to help these high school students learn a valuable skill that they can use to make a career in the future. Finally, I want to say thank you for supporting the Chamber over the last 4 years, and I look forward to many more with you. And again, thank you for helping us turn the Chamber into more than a radio show, but a place for our youth to learn valuable skills that they can use to turn into a career in their future. Until next time, y'all, peace and blessings. I am out.
Do you know what smoking and cigarettes do to the inside of your body?
It hurts your body. Smoke and cigarettes can hurt your lungs.
It hurts your throat.
It hurts lots of other parts too.
It makes you more likely to get heart disease and lung disease.
It increases your risk for a heart attack or stroke.
And on the outside, it really just stinks.
Your clothes.
Yes, y'all. Welcome back to the Chamber. I'm your host, Andre Roxx, Mr. Independent. And of course, you are tuned in to either KYBN Radio, the World Advantage Network, Real People Talk Radio, WNIA, or Hip Hop News Source Radio, that's HHNSradio.com. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Once again, phone lines are open, so if you'd like to call into the show, please feel free to drop us a line at 706-452-ROXX. That's 706-452-7699. If you're tuned in on our video stream, if you're tuned in on our radio stream, I do apologize, but you are already listening to a rebroadcast of the show, so you can't call in live. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to it. You've got a young 8-year-old boy handcuffed, sat on the ground, claiming that he is handcuffed and sat on the ground. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. We've got a comment here. It says, come on, Andre. I'm a 30-year cop here. Engage me. I'm all fair and equal treatment for people. However, you know what? If you want to be engaged, since you're listening to the show, why don't you go ahead and call in? The number 706-452-ROXX. I don't have time to read the Facebook feeds all the time. So if you want me to engage you, feel free to call in the show. I have no problem speaking to you. You'll get directly on the line, no call screeners, anything. 706-452-ROXX. I'm here. I'm here. But you got to call, you got to deal with this the way that we got to deal with this here on the show, because I can't do 9 million things at the same time. So feel free to call in. I would love to speak to a cop on this issue. Feel free. Otherwise, stop running your mouth on Facebook. Let's get back to it. We're talking about this 8-year-old boy who was viewed differently. I want to get into some of the studies. Now, the first study that I looked into is the study done in 2014. It was published March 6th of 2014 by the American Psychological Association. I want to be clear on who these people are. They are not a biased organization. Their job is not to prove or disprove any type of racial bias or anything like that. Their job is simply to document their findings, and then their job is to interpret those findings. I'm going to read this study word for word to you real quick. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's about 150 pages long. But let me read what was published as the opening. Black boys as young as 10 may not be viewed in the same light of childhood innocence as their white peers, but are instead more likely to be mistaken as older, to be perceived as guilty, face police violence if accused of a crime, according to new research published by the American Psychological Association. Children in most societies are considered to be in a distinct group with characteristics such as innocence and the need of protection. Our research found that black boys can be seen as responsible for their actions and at an age, guys, I apologize. My screen is pretty far away and I don't have my glasses on. At an age when white boys still benefit from the assumption that children are essentially innocent. Research tested 175 police officers. So for the police officer that claimed he wanted to call in to my show, oh, he's saying it goes to voicemail. Hang on one second. Tell you what, send me your number in a private message. I'll go ahead and call you. And we'll go ahead and put it on air. Send me your number in a private message so you don't have to put it on air. And I'll go ahead and call you. I don't know why it's going to voicemail. It shouldn't. I believe you're probably calling in the wrong line. It's 706-452-7699. But go ahead and send me your number in private message and we'll talk. We'll talk. I want to get your response to the American Journal of Medicine. Or I'm sorry, the American Psychological Association. Come on, we'll talk. I'm waiting for the number. As soon as I get it. As soon as I get it, I'm going to call you. Well, while we're waiting for that number, ladies and gentlemen, while we're waiting for that number to come on in, be more than happy to speak to any police officer. I love getting police officers on my show. I really do. Still waiting for that message, though, with that number. Not getting it. That's all right. See, it sounds good. It sounds really good to say that. But still waiting for that private message here. Anyway, while we're waiting for that number, while we're waiting for this police officer to call into the show, who's claiming that they want to have a conversation with me, but doesn't want to come on air, I guess. I guess that's the issue. Let's see here. Don't know how to private message. Hang on. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and send you a message, and you can send it back. Hang on. See, I don't shy away from these things. But anyway, I want to go back to the American Psychological Association and what they're saying so that my listeners don't get bored with this back and forth. 176 police officers, mostly white males, average age 37. That's the average police officer. Mostly white males, average age 37. In large urban areas, to determine their level of two distinct types of bias: prejudice and unconscious dehumanization of black people, comparing them to apes. To test prejudice, researchers had officers complete a widely used psychological questionnaire with statements such as, "It is likely that blacks will bring violence to neighborhoods when they move in." To determine if officers dehumanize blacks, research gave them psychological tasks which they paired blacks and whites, with large cats such as lions or apes. Researchers viewed the police officers' personal records to determine use of force while on duty and found that those who dehumanized blacks were more likely to have used force against a black child in custody than officers who did not dehumanize blacks. The study described use of force takedowns or wrist locks, kicking, punching, striking, or with blunt objects, use of police dogs, restraints, or hobbling, to use tear gas, electronic shock, or killing. Only dehumanization and not police officers' prejudice against blacks, conscious or not, was linked to violent encounters with black children in custody, according to this study. I'm gonna go. I want to go on. I'm waiting for this this message to come back in. I just sent this police officer who claims they want to get on air with me a message. Okay. Seems that he has sent the message, or he claims he's. There we go. Hang on one second here. We're gonna get live on air with this police officer. Give me 1 second to call this guy. And I do apologize if I pronounce your name wrong. It seems to be Andine Sue. Bear with me. Hey, you're on the box with Andre Roxx. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Is it Andine Sue?
Yeah, it's Andy DeLay. That's me.
Andy, okay. Hey, Andy, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Now, everybody that we bring on the show, cop or not, and I make it no secret that I'm not a fan of police officers, but everybody that we bring on the show, we like to show respect to. So I have two rules on the show: is when you're speaking, I won't speak. When I'm speaking, I ask for the same respect. And then I ask, because we are FCC regulated, that you do not use profanity. Is that cool?
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome. All right, so obviously you had some disagreements with what I said. Go ahead and speak your mind. Before I even go into it, feel free to speak your mind.
Yeah, there's not a disagreement with what you say. Well, first off, I've spent most of my career, I should say, with the Sheriff's Office in Pinellas County.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now a school resource officer and have been for the last year now, so I work with kids all the time.
We spoke once before, didn't we?
Yes, I'm the one that was incensed about what happened to you.
Yes, I remember. I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting. I do apologize.
That's all right. It's all good. And what gets me now, I understand. Well, no, let me go back. I can't say I understand where you're coming from because I haven't walked in your shoes.
Okay.
But I understand where you're coming from with what you're saying, but you talk like all of us, and I talk to us law enforcement officers, are white.
Okay.
Half of my agency, or more than half of my agency that I'm with, and I work for a black chief of police and a black second in command major who are retired from St. Petersburg Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking like this, it doesn't offend me about anything, but I just scratch my head and you're painting a picture that all police officers are black. Are white, and that's not correct.
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't paint a picture that all police officers are white. But as I said before, on several of my other shows, I do have a problem. I don't believe that there is such a thing as a good police officer. I apologize if I offend you, but the truth is I don't believe that the culture of policing allows for there to be a good police officer. I do want to speak on that, and I do apologize. But we do have to go to our break because my sponsors do write me checks. Can I get you to stay on the line for 4 minutes through the break?
I'm right here with you, brother.
All right, no problem here. Let me go to a little bit of the OJs for those of you that are tuned in on Facebook, on our radio stream, and for those of you tuned in on Facebook Live, a word from our sponsors.
Get yellow. Hello, do you hear what we're saying? Do you hear what we're saying?
Do you hear
Smoking isn't cool. It's not cool at all.
And it can kill you. Hey, you won't start smoking for yourself. Just do it for me. And me. And me. And me. And me.
And us.
So we have our nice guac smasher here.
That's the guac smasher?
The guac smasher. I always joked as, man, working at Chipotle definitely gave me some muscles. I mean, I worked at a sandwich shop before and the guacamole came in a bag, in a freezer, and who knows what was in it.
You know what's in all of this food.
Yes. I'm gonna add onions and cilantro, jalapenos, get all those ingredients in there.
It is fresh.
Fresh every day.
You've had quite the career.
Yeah, I've had some pretty prestigious jobs over the years. News producer, executive transport manager, and a beverage distribution supervisor. Now I'm a director at a security software firm.
Wow, you've been at it a long time.
The thing is, I like working. What if my retirement plan is I don't want to retire?
Then let's not create a retirement plan. Let's create a plan for what's next.
I like that.
Get a plan that's right for you. TD Ameritrade.
Corner pocket.
Greetings and salutations.
Whoa! It's the new guy!
You, sir, are correct. I am Epic Crunch Nacho, known worldwide for my powerful crunch. Crunch!
What the what? He just crunched the 8-ball!
Welcome to the team, Epic Crunch.
Thank you very much.
Ow! You crunched my hand!
Oh no! I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. It was a total accident. I'm sorry, it'll never happen again.
Psych!
Ha ha! You got me.
New Goldfish Epic Crunch! Crunch that packs a punch!
Flavors of orange and vanilla and Coke living together harmoniously, just like the fine people of this town.
Orange! Vanilla. Orange. Vanilla.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Andre Roxx, host of The Chamber on KYBN, WNIA, and HHNS Radio. Now, when you see The Chamber's live video broadcast, this is what you... All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on air live with Andy. He is a he's a Pinellas County police officer. And we're speaking to him about policing. I want to say, I just want to reiterate, no, I don't believe that all police officers are Caucasian. Of course not. But I think that once you become a police officer, blue begins to come before anything else. And where I say that there's no such thing as a good police officer is very simple. And I don't know if you've tuned into my show before, but it's real simple. There's something called the thin blue line. And when the thin blue line requires that police officers, and I've spoken to many officers on this show, it requires that police officers protect their own. Now, if you witness, and you're a police officer, let me ask you a very simple question. If you witness your fellow officer committing a crime, and you're testifying against that officer, would put that officer in prison, would you testify against that officer in open court?
All day long.
You are the first officer ever to say that. Now, I've had this challenge out for 4 years now, and I've waited for a police officer to say that. Now, the challenge is real simple. If you give me your name and your badge number, and I will send this recording to your fellow officers.
Okay.
If you give me your name and your badge number, you receive at 100% of the proceeds from my next single. They either go to a charity of your choice or to your pocket. That's up to you. But
charity.
All right, we'll talk about the charity when we go to our next break. But I'm looking for one officer. Now, I do have to ask you this. Are you a sergeant or anything like that? Or are you a regular officer?
I'm a regular police officer.
Ladies and gentlemen, somebody has finally, after 4 years, claimed the prize. After 4 years, we've spoken to officers on air, and not one of them would say that they would stand up in open court and testify against one of their fellow police officers, if that would wind up their fellow police officer in prison. Now, this is 4 years that we've done this. I want to go back to what I was saying about the thin blue line, because the culture would label you or any other officer that would say that a whistleblower. Unfortunately, it filters out all of the cops that would do good by their community. It filters out every police officer that would do right by their community. I've spoken to officers and I mean, I've probably spoken to, over the past 4 years, 40 or 50 police officers. And not one of them would say that they've always said, oh, well, we have internal means of dealing with that or anything, and on all of those different things. And we know how internal investigations go. So that's why I say there's no such thing as a good police officer. I hope you've proved me wrong.
And I have. I've already done it. If you're going to look into stuff, of course, off air, I'll give you. I was at the agency I was at just before this. I was a field training officer.
Okay.
And part of what I do was train cops to be cops. I've been in the field for 30 years. And this cop that I trained, when he got out of field training, he outright lied about taking somebody into custody, how he took somebody into custody. Everything that went down to a traffic stop, I found out was a bald-faced lie. I pressed my chief of police to arrest this officer. He was fired and decertified. But still, he should have been arrested.
All right.
It wasn't my call to make.
I want to ask you this. Well, first of all, as an officer, couldn't you have arrested him just under the fact that you are a police officer and he broke the law?
If I was there at the time, I would have. It did not happen on my shift. I was just following up on something and happened to run into evidence on an in-car camera that proved this after the fact. And I'm talking about 3 or 4 days after the fact.
So
I bring it up to my command staff, and it was taken that way. But I pushed the command staff, and I pushed. You see, Andre, what I want you to understand, there's a difference between me, a 30-year-old guy, 30-year-old guy, I'm 53, but a 30-year-old cop, a 30-year cop, and someone that's 5 or 10 years in. I don't care about peer pressure. It is up to me to change to change the way policing is now.
Okay.
If I turn my head and let something go, let somebody get whooped, do some street justice like they did in the old days. The old days was if someone mouthed you, you took them to the hospital, then you took them to jail. I'll tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
That don't happen anymore. I'm talking back in the 80s.
Right.
Not on my shift and not when I'm around. The guys understand that I ain't gonna put up with it. I'm charged by you and everyone else in this community to do a job. And I'm charged by you and everyone else to trust that I'm gonna do my job legally. If I'm working with someone and they can't do it legally, they're done.
Right.
And I don't care. The peer pressure don't affect me as a 30-year officer. I'll tell them to go pack sand.
So.
But that's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, go ahead, Andre. I just wanted to point that out. That's all.
So I got to ask you this, because you said something very interesting. You said that you had to pressure your commanding officers to make the arrest.
Correct.
So why were your commanding officers hesitant? I mean, it seems to me that it should be, hey, we have this evidence. Hey, the guy gets arrested. I mean, that's how they would do to me. So why were your commanding officers hesitant? Was it because he was a fellow officer?
Not so. Honestly, I think there was hesitation in this, and it was done. The decertifying route was done, basically kicking him out of law enforcement. The reason is public image. If something like this happens, I'll tell you who it is out there. A smaller department, something like this could wreck a smaller department. It's going to reflect badly on the city. It would reflect badly on the staff.
Shouldn't it?
Oh, my God. I don't care. Yes, you're right. It should.
Yeah, I mean...
And I'll tell you that all day long. You know, if it's wrong, it's wrong. What applies to you as a law applies to me. Just because I work as a law enforcement officer doesn't mean I'm above any law. Doesn't mean I'm treated differently than everyone else. Just for instance, when I go try to get something to eat and someone says, here, I'm giving you a discount because you're a cop, I don't take it. They work hard for their money. No one gives them a discount. Why do I deserve a discount? That's what I'm trying to say. We need to change our perception, the way society, the way that cops act.
I agree.
And you're right, Andre. You are right. Pushing for what you're trying to get change. You're trying to get societal change, and man, I'm behind you 100%. Just some of the things you were saying seem to me to be taken out of the media lies all day long.
Well, I mean, we're not even dealing with the media. We're dealing with the American Psychological Association. Let me ask you this: what do you think about the fact? What do you think of? And this is proven fact. What do you think about the fact that I, as a black man, am 3 times more likely to be shot and killed by a police officer unarmed than a white man?
What I want to know is where at? Is it in metropolitan areas?
This is the United States. This was taken by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and this is across the United States of America. Across the United States of America, unarmed blacks per capita are 3 times more likely. I know that a lot of people will say, oh, well, you know, they shoot more whites than blacks. But then when you take into account that blacks only make up 13.7% of the population, and you break it down per capita, per 1,000 people, I'm 3 times more likely to be shot and killed by by a cop than my white counterparts.
And here's the question: why?
That's the question I'm asking you. What do you if we're not dealing with a racial bias issue, then how would you explain that?
Here's what an answer that I've given to that before.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of community policing? Community-based policing. When you get out, for instance, Andre, I've talked to you in the past.
Right.
And if I know you, all right, and something happens, I'm going to think twice about it. No, how about Andre's not going to carry a gun, or, you know, this is crazy. Right? I'm going to think twice about that. That's where cops need to get out into their community, like I do. When I'm going around the kids playing basketball, I get out there and talk to the kids. I get out there and talk to the folks sitting outside on the porch enjoying the day. They know me as Andy. They do not know me as Officer DeLay. Nobody does. And that's how you get past what you're talking about. You got to know the folks in your community. If all they see is a car driving around, you're ineffective.
But what I'm saying is, and I agree with that. I agree that we 100% need to get back to community-based policing rather than militarized policing.
Yes, totally.
But the fact still remains that there's clearly a racial bias. Okay, for example, even though blacks only make up 13.7% of the population, we make up 60% of the arrests. How do you? I mean, how can we justify that? How can we rectify that? That we're making up.
That's a very good question. And there's a problem there. I'm not going to tell you there's not a problem. Yeah, the stats tell you, Andre, there's a problem there.
Right. So as a black man, and what I was saying in this, and it doesn't matter if the cop is black or white. I want to be very clear on that. It doesn't matter if the cop is black or white, because we deal with the same issues with black cops as we do with white cops. And that's, I'm actually going to get into a study on that and what the American Psychological Association showed on that and why that happens a little bit later on in the show. But what happens is, as a black man, when I get pulled over by the police, most white people, when they get pulled over by the police, they say, oh my God, I hope I don't get a ticket. And they try and talk themselves out of getting a ticket. When I, as a black man, get pulled over by police, I say, oh my God, I hope I only get a ticket. Because I have friends who are no longer with us. Alip Cheatham, who was no longer with us, who had nothing to do with any type of robbery or anything like that, but the police decided to open fire on his Honda for no reason.
And there's no excuse for that. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you there's a reason and there's a good reason for it, because there isn't. Do you know how many people I shot and killed? 0. White or black. How many I could have legally probably done it and been justified? Honestly, Andre, 20 or 30 at least in my career.
Mm-hmm. And
who wants that?
But
Nobody wants that.
let me ask you this about the people you could have shot and killed. And this is going to get to the crux of my issue. What were their races? Was it pretty evenly distributed?
Honestly, there's more white folks. I have policed more in the white community than I have in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were white.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry.
No one wants that.
No. I mean, I don't think that we want anybody to be killed. I don't think that we want anybody to be killed. But I have to say, as a black man, it looks very different from me, because I'm the one who bullets are flying in my direction. I'm the one who worries about my 8-year-old son going out in the community every day. I'm the, as a black man, I look at this and I have to say, until policing is corrected in this nation, I have to look at police officers as enemy combatants. I have to look at them and say, hey, wait a minute. There is a serious possibility that I could get my head blown off in this situation. This is not, when we talk, it's not theoretical. This is, my real life. I get pulled over by a cop who has an attitude. Let's be real here. In the situation that I was in, that you saw the video of, that would have ended a lot worse. Let me tell you, when the video cut off, that's when the police officers got violent towards me. And I won't get into this on air, but that's when the police officers got a little bit more hostile and aggressive. Had that not been videotaped, I could be a corpse right now.
Yes.
So,
and we should not, I don't care what race you are, that should not be tolerated in our society. Period.
I understand. Unfortunately, I live in a world of what is, not what should be. And I have to recognize that when somebody walks up to me with a badge and a gun, I have to recognize right then and there that my life is in danger. And I have to take appropriate steps to protect my life. And especially when I'm watching videos constantly of children. You're a resource officer. You remember was about a year ago now, that resource officer that threw the girl 15 feet across the room because she was on her cell phone. Now, I'll admit the girl had a little attitude.
Doesn't matter.
Threw the girl 15 feet across the room because she had a cell phone. Now,
that's crazy.
Now, I, as a parent, I have to say to myself, you know what? I don't care if you've got a badge or a gun on or not. If I see you doing that to a child in my community, especially my child, I'm going to have to treat you just like everyone else, because I have to protect me and my family. So I have to start looking at cops as enemy combatants, because I recognize that nobody else as a black man is protecting me from them.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. And I'm not here. I'm not going to get on the phone and on your show, especially, and try to tell you you're wrong. Can I tell you something here? One of the steps that I have gone to try to avoid some of this, at this other agency that I worked at, I had a black family, wonderful folks turned out, just great folks, moved into a predominantly white neighborhood. I thought if I was them, I'm probably going to feel uncomfortable. They don't know who the cops are, just like you. Yeah, who these cops are going to try beating up my kid? They don't know who the neighbors are. And I stopped my car, got out, went up to the door, knocked on the door. Of course, they're like, why are the cops knocking on my door?
Of course.
Introduced myself, told them I want you to feel safe in your community. Gave them my personal cell phone number, said if there's any problems that arise, you call Andy, and I will take care of this. And these folks were wonderful. And they called me a few times, and I helped them. This is how we get past this, Andre. We have to be personable, one-on-one.
I agree, and I'll be honest with you, with the situation the way it is right now. That's going to require you to speak to your coworkers, because we as the black community, I mean, you got to look at the history. This has been going on for a century and a half, since 1865. We as the black community, it's a lot easier for you all as cops to take the risk of trying to reach out to the community, because if you fail, then you go back to policing us like, I got to call it what it is, brutes. If we start reaching out to you and there's a failure on our end, if we lower our guard, we're like, we could die. So the effort at this point, I feel like we as the African American community, we've made all of the efforts that we possibly can. And now I think it's really up to the police, the legislators, to make those efforts to reach out to us. Our trust is gone with your profession. And for good reason. I'm sorry, I got to say it. We have no trust because, we don't like seeing our kids getting shot in the streets.
And I'm with you. You're right. There is no reason that you should. I mean, gosh, if we go back, heck, just before I started, my God, in the civil rights movement, it was on camera. The cops treated African American folks like scumbags. You saw that. They got beat, fire hosed, and everything. So it was even worse than that before then. Look at Rosewood in Florida.
Agreed.
That happened in the 1920s.
Agreed.
So the only way to get out of this, I feel, on the law enforcement side, is for cops like me not to put up with it.
Agreed.
No, we're not going to have this. If you treat someone badly, you violate their constitutional rights. If you get an attitude and you're a cop, that can't be tolerated. It has to be disciplined. Folks need to be arrested. Folks need to be decertified. And so I'm with you, Andre, 100%.
Agreed. What concerns me is, something that you said earlier, is when you, as a police officer, went to your commanding officers, there was resistance when you told them about a fellow officer. I look at the Laquan McDonald situation. I look at the Tamir Rice situation. I look at there were a few other situations where these officers plain out and flat out lied to protect their fellow officers, and that seems to be the norm. I've had situations in my own life. A lot of people don't know this because I don't speak about it much on the show. I've been arrested and beaten for stealing my own car because I was a black man with an expensive car.
That's unacceptable.
And the officers lied and said that I attacked them. I attacked two armed men from a sitting position in a vehicle. And I mean, I don't think that there's any African American over the age of, let's say, 30 who doesn't have a story similar to that. I've never met one that either it happened to them or somebody that they know.
And Andre, until someone like me, like I said, I haven't walked in your shoes. I haven't been the victim of this type of racism in my life. I haven't. However, guys like me, folks like me, have to stop and listen to this and understand this and do something about this.
Agreed.
Or it's not going to change.
Agreed. Well, what I wanted to finish with was after I was released, after I beat that case and I was released, I filed a complaint. And the officer's words, of course, were taken over mine. And the complaint went absolutely nowhere. And see, this is the thing. When these situations happen, as we were saying, you had a resistance from your commanding officers. We as blacks, we're tired of meeting resistance when when we try and bring these issues up either in court or try and bring them up, filing a claim. I've been told by desk sergeants, you need to tell me what happens before you can put in a written complaint. We've had all of these things happen, and at this point, you know, I encourage my people to defend themselves and to physically defend themselves because we have no other options. And you are, you know, if everything, and I would like to actually get some information, and I'd like to bring you back on the show about the incident that you're talking about, because if everything that you're saying is correct, I'm very harsh on the cops here on my show. But if everything that you're saying is correct, I will also give credit where credit is due, and I'd love to bring you back on to talk about that story. But even if everything that you're saying is true, that is you've been in law enforcement 30 years. You know that that's a rare occurrence. I mean, answer me this question: how many of your fellow officers, in all honesty, would do that?
I don't know, and I don't know that they would. Honest to God, I couldn't give you a number 1, 0, 10. I don't know. Just like you said, there is a thin blue line. At least there was. That line has gotten a heck of a lot thinner over the years, but it's still there.
Well, I mean, you've worked with these guys for 30 years, so I'm sure you know their personalities well enough.
Yes.
Estimate how many of your fellow officers. I'll give you an example. An officer gets a little bit rough with a suspect. I'll give you my example. Officer beat me up when I had my own car, or when I had I had my Mercedes at the time, and the slit between my eyes is a constant reminder of what happened. It's got a scar to this day. They claimed that I assaulted them. And it was only one officer that really pulled me out and started beating me. The other officer lied for him.
That's unacceptable.
Right. Now, how many of your fellow officers watching their partner do that do you think would actually stand up in open court and admit it? And admit, hey, I watched this guy do this.
3 to 5% of the guys that I've worked with over the years.
So 3 to 5%. Which puts us at 95% of the officers. 95% of the.
It was worse years ago.
Right. So at 95% of the officers, and you know as well as I do that me walking into court with my word versus the word of the officers, you know who's going to be believed. So we as blacks have no recourse. We have no recourse. So, I mean, what am I supposed to say on this show in dealing with police officers? I know you as an officer probably don't like to hear the rhetoric that I spew.
No, it's needed. Oh gosh, no. I think what has to change, you have to do what you're doing, Andre. I applaud you, man.
I appreciate that.
This is needed. I do not disagree at all with this. When you say I don't like to hear, oh yeah, I know it. And I don't mind hearing it because I'm trying to change it.
Well, I you know what? We're always looking for allies. So I do have to go because if I go into this next show again, they're going to get real mad at me. So I'm gonna hop off air here, but we are gonna claim we're giving off the prize. So all of the proceeds from my next single, which will be the Neon Lights single. When we started this, ladies and gentlemen, we were way back at the grown folks music single. But all of the proceeds from my next single will be given out to either you or a charity of your choice. We need to officially do this, so I need to get your full name, your badge number, and the unit you work for on air here before we get off.
Yeah, buddy, it's not a problem.
All right, your full name, your unit that you work for, and your badge number.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
My full name is Andrew Robert DeLay. I presently work for the Pinellas County Schools Police Department. I'm a school resource officer. My badge number is 128.
4 years, ladies and gentlemen, somebody finally claimed the prize. All right, I will get the information on payouts after we get off air. But ladies and gentlemen, that is my show. I want to thank everybody out there for inviting me into your home, into your vehicle, onto your AM and FM dials, onto your laptops, your cell phones, your tablet computers. However you're listening to me today, I want to thank you for inviting me into your eardrums. It is always an honor and a privilege to have my voice heard, to have my opinion taken into consideration. Even if you disagree with everything I just said, I still appreciate you taking the time to hear me out. That's an honor and a privilege that I do not take for granted. So thank you very much for that. As always, y'all, remember, we don't have to like each other, but God said we should love each other. I'm your host, Andre Roxx, Mr. Independent. Until next time, y'all, peace and blessings. I am out.
But this